toilet seat down on his thing again.
Bullseye!
Jingle bells, Batman smells. Welcome to another episode of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Tim Morrison, joined as always by the jolliest man around, Paul Ireland. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tim. How are you today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Wonderful. Very excited for this movie, our last Christmas movie for this month. This time we chose Home Alone 3. It came out in 1997, distributed by 20th Century Fox, and it was one of John Hughes' last films. He's the director.
He wrote this, you're right. And it's actually crazy to think that John Hughes, so John Hughes wrote the first Home Alone. He wrote the second Home Alone. The man's written a ton of movies. It's just like he wrote this.
Just for people who may not be familiar with John Hughes, he also wrote the Vacation movies, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and The Breakfast Club. So like this he's made great movies. Yeah, and this is one of his last ones.
As far as Hollywood movies are considered, like he is just cranking out just some serious bangers here. There's like absolute monster hits back to back, and they're actually really funny, and some of them have some really smart writing in them, and it's just some really touching moments. And then you have Home Alone 3, which has none of that. This movie, I don't want to spoil it, but like, man, this is not a good movie.
Well, there's no getting around that we sorely miss Macaulay Culkin in this film. He's probably a pretty hard actor to replace as well, because I don't think I can't think of any other child actors that were like as famous as Macaulay Culkin.
I mean, yeah, you might be right. For a time there, Macaulay Culkin was absolutely massive. That kid just had the early 90s by the short and curlies. He was an absolute king.
If somehow you haven't seen Home Alone 1 or 2 and you just happen to be listening to this episode about Home Alone 3, here is a quick premise of what the movie is about. Alex Pruitt, an 8-year-old boy living in Chicago, must fend off international spies who seek a top-secret computer chip in his toy car.
That's what John Hughes wrote to follow up Home Alone and Home Alone 2. Home Alone 2, okay. So maybe I'll mention this, like, again, if you're just new to the show, last year for Christmas, we watched Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. That was Tim's choice. If you haven't seen it, you can listen to it. Tim, yeah, to be fair, you do like the movie. You just got some issues with it, and that's fine. But we went through and we had a great time watching it. And it's just like, and I know it's not the greatest Home Alone movie. Obviously, Home Alone 1 is the best. And the writing in that, to me, is just like spot on. It's perfect. But like, he wrote those two movies, which were like an A and like a B+, A-. And then this is just like your dog chewed your homework up and crapped it on the rug. And you got Home Alone 3.
Have you seen any of the straight-to-video sequels?
No, this is the only one I've ever seen. And I'm kind of looking forward to watching the new one, but I'm also actually kind of thinking it's going to obviously not be great, so.
I could see you backpedaling that statement maybe if you ever choose to watch any of the sequels after this movie that never hit the theaters. Those ones are soulless. This one at least has something, I guess, but anyways, that's another day, another episode. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, Paul, you ready to break into this house?
Yeah, I'm home alone.
So this movie starts out the same way as the previous two Home Alone movies. We see a blue house on a street with houses beside it, like they're just like silhouettes. And we hear the, I guess it's the Home Alone song. I just associate it with Christmas now. And it's that one that goes, I love that song. That got me in the mood for this movie right away. I kind of, get in the Christmas spirit a little bit. Right from the get-go, you can tell that this movie is very different from the two previous installments of Home Alone. Because we start off in Hong Kong, and we immediately get this kind of like espionage spy kind of theme, because it uses the trope here where Hong Kong appears on the screen, and it appears with the sound effects of a typewriter. That's how you know you're watching like a spy espionage movie. Whenever like the title of a location appears on the screen, it's like tick, 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 tick. And so anyways, that's where we are. We're in Hong Kong and we meet our villain of the movie. His name is Mr. Beaupre. I don't know. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but anyways, his name is Mr. Beaupre.
I think it's Beaupre.
Or Beaupre, I don't know. Anyways, Beaupre here is looking to buy a microchip that controls missiles. It like masks, it like cloaks missiles or something so they can't be detected. And yeah, they tell him that if he controls this, he will rule the entire region. The region of Hong Kong? I don't know.
Yeah, you're slightly confused because I was there too, but I watched this a couple times. And what I think is happening here is this guy, Beaupre, whatever his name is, he right now is going to buy a chip for this guy in Hong Kong, and he's going to sell the chip to somebody. That's because what happens here is Beaupre says something akin to, your clients must want to build a missile that is undetectable on radar. So that's why he said like, what's with this huge price tag on this chip? What is this? And then so he explains to him that whoever has this chip can basically control the area. What's happening here is Beaupre is sort of like, he's got an Ocean's 11 team of like 4 people, and they're going to go and purchase the chip from somebody and then deliver it to somebody else. Like they seem like they're kind of like the middleman. That's sort of what's kind of happening here, I think.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Because within the next minute, we are suddenly in Silicon Valley, where it appears as though they are making the trade-off for this microchip. He hands someone a briefcase that I assume has $10 million in it, and he is handed the microchip in return. This microchip, by the way, is the size of a like old cell phone or a chocolate bar. I don't know, an Aero bar.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Let me ask you, did it seem weird to you that it's $10 million, but it's a tiny briefcase they gave him? Like $10 million seems like that would be a significant amount of money. There's like $10 million bills in there or something, right?
It didn't look like a nice briefcase, one that you would expect. Like I would expect like something that had $10 million cash in it. You'd expect someone to be like handcuffed to that or something, right? But they're just down by this dock at night.
You're right. This is like the Walmart special. This is like, you think they would at least go to Sharper Image at the very least to get a briefcase for $10 million. You feel like the briefcase itself already comes with like a Louis Vuitton bag or something. They're just like already like, you're putting $10 million in here. Let me give you some pimp bag that you're just going to run out with this.
So right after they get the chip and part ways, this terrorist here, Beaupre, he decides to he's going to hide this microchip inside of a remote control truck toy. It's hard for me to even say that out loud and take it seriously because this thing just cost $10 million and they are hiding this in a children's toy. Anyways, that's their plan to sneak it through airport security.
It's definitely better than trying to hoop a chip, all right?
That's a pretty big microchip. So, yeah, I guess they're taking the easy way out on this one. So
you're right. If they were committed to their craft,
yeah,
they would do it old school style.
Yeah. Well, these are upper class terrorists, right? So now we go to San Francisco. We're at an airport in San Francisco. So we have Mr. Beaupre is the head criminal, and basically we'll call him the not American terrorist. And then we have man 1, man 2, bad American terrorist, and then we have American woman, bad girl terrorist.
You know, I thought the one guy in this movie, his name is, I think they call him Jernigan. He's Burton Jernigan. To me, this guy kind of looked like Norman Bates. But later on in the movie, you're going to see that he actually transforms into Ross from Friends. So I can't wait for that part to come up in this movie. That's going to be great.
So the terrorists get in the lineup here to check their bags and run them through the scanning unit. And they put their Parisian bag with the toy truck on the conveyor belt. And it goes through. And before they manage to get to the other side, another old lady grabs a Parisian bag that she thinks is hers. However, she ends up with their toy truck. And They realize this immediately, but they have no idea where this old lady went.
They're kind of in freak out mode a little bit. So they're quietly kind of going around and looking in similar bags around them to see if they can figure out where this person is. And they break off and they're going down different piers and different areas and they're checking stuff and trying to see in a bunch of lounges and they come back and it looks like there's nothing. They have no idea where this bag is, or at least they can't find their toy truck. So again, this is another reason they should have hooped this thing. Okay, so Mr. Beaupre is looking at the screens.
Paul, for those at home who don't know what hooping is,
You don't need to explain that to people. This is Christmas, Tim.
Okay.
It's bad enough I brought this.
okay,
Sorry, I'm contaminating this with horrible stuff. It's Christmas.
just not sure if everyone's up on your lingo,
No,
up on your prison lingo.
You don't need it. Anyways, they do actually talk about butt inspection gloves later on in this movie, so. It's Christmas. I'm sorry. Okay. So Mr. Beaupre is looking at the board now. Everyone comes back. They're like, we have no idea where this bag is. He's just looking at the board. He's going all Rain Man on it, analyzing it in his head, quantifying, looking around on this board. And he sees a flight is boarding to Chicago. And he goes, all right, everybody, it looks like we're going to Chicago. And at first I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, this is 1997. You could just kind of just do that, I guess, at the airport. So they all run and they are going to board this flight to Chicago.
Once they get there, they spot the old lady walking with this Parisian bag of theirs with the toy truck. However, they can't catch up to her before she gets into a taxi. So as she's driving away the taxi, this guy, one of the terrorists, he holds up his glove and he has this like cool little camera built into his glove and just kind of like snaps pictures of the taxi.
How would you even know what you're looking at when you do that too, by the way?
I don't know, but these guys are pros. So, that's just how they roll.
So Mr. Beaupre and his gang, they figure out where the taxi driver is. They find him and they say, where did you drop this lady off? And they kind of bully him into telling him. And he says, it's this neighborhood on Washington Street and they had a Christmas tree in the front. It's this big house and the driveway wasn't shoveled. So that's kind of all the information they've got to go on. So they figure, let's get over there. Let's figure out if we can see which house this lady lives at.
So now we're introduced to our main character, the not quite Macaulay Culkin. His name is Alex Pruitt.
AKA not Kevin.
So Unkevin here is shoveling Mrs. Hess's driveway. Mrs. Hess is the old lady who ended up with the monster truck toy car. She was actually expected to have a bag of sourdough bread. So anyways, as payment for shoveling her driveway, she gives Alex this monster truck. And she seems like not very nice. I don't know what her deal is, but she seems quirky.
I was kind of confused with this character too because it seems like she's kind of mean, but at the same time, she's really nice too. She complains to Kevin. She kind of chastises him a bit and says, like, you didn't shovel my driveway when I was gone. You're supposed to do it right away. And you just left it to the last minute. And he apologizes. And, he's like, oh, I'm not going to get paid. And she's like, well, I can't just stiff you because, what, you're going to tell the whole neighborhood that I didn't give you any money for this?
So Mrs. Hess here gives Alex one last scolding for scratching his crotch area while she's in his presence, just talking to her. And, it is kind of rude, but, there's a story to that. So it has meaning. So we see Alex go home and he's tired from shoveling, I guess. And he goes up to his bedroom. He looks in the mirror and he's kind of itchy on his neck. And he feels like he might have a fever or something. And he sees a big giant pimple or something on the very top of his forehead. Then he goes to the bathroom and we see him undress and then he goes to the bathroom and he's there taking his clothes off and he notices that he's covered in chickenpox. And then we get the only nod basically to the Home Alone movies or the previous ones is he just kind of screams like Macaulay Culkin did when he put shaving cream on his face.
I mean, as this is all going on, you kind of quickly meet some of Alex's family in this too. Well, you meet the mom, who is unfortunately named Karen. She is, and it's like, they kind of make her like Kate. And I mean, obviously it's a K name as well, and they make her a redhead. And then in this movie, there's her dad, which I don't even think they really say his name in this movie. I looked it up on IMDb. I think he has a name in this movie, but in this whole movie, I think they just called him Dad. So That was also kind of weird.
You know who I think his older brother is?
Who's that?
He's Sid from Toy Story. I don't know why, but he just reminds me of Sid. He's just a punk who seems rude and crude. And that's basically his only trait. Oh, he's also a redhead.
Yeah, well, apparently his name is Stan, and I think they said it once in this entire movie, and it's like an hour and 5 minutes into this. They say it just kind of passing by, like, oh yeah, and Stan's there. So I guess his name is Stan, and to me, he's not Buzz, because he is supposed to be Buzz, but he's not Buzz, right? It's like they actually kind of made him like slim too in this. Not, no offense, Buzz in the first two movies. He's a little husky, but it's the same kind of haircut, and he's just as obnoxious, and he's got a Chicago Bulls thing on his door, and he's got basketballs, but he's got instead of a tarantula, he's got a parrot that talks in this movie. And there's also Molly, and that's Alex's sister in this movie, and I guess she's not one of the sisters, She's kind of like Lenny. I think that's what her name is. The one that says, Kevin, you're what the French call les incompetents.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
She's kind of like that. And so what's interesting is I looked her up about 5 seconds before we hit record today. Do you know who Molly is in this movie?
Yeah, that's Scarlett Johansson.
I did not know that.
Yeah, this is one of her, I don't know, probably first 3 movies that she ever did.
Yeah, I guess it's just not, they gave you roles not based on the strength of the movie, just your performance, I guess, which is fair.
His parents remind me of Arnold Schwarzenegger from Jingle All the Way. They're basically just on the phone with work, nonstop, can't get away from it. And yeah, they don't really seem to feel too bad about it either.
Yeah, they've got demanding jobs, and I think she's got a boss. His name is Charlie, and he's always kind of bugging her, it sounds like, about working more and working weekends and stuff. And she's just like, well, I want to make time for my family. And, they obviously realize now Kevin has chicken pox, so the mom has to stay at home.
The very next morning, Alex's mother is doing her best to work from home. However, she's getting bombarded with these calls and has no choice but to go into work and leaves Alex by himself. So once she leaves, Alex decides that he's going to play some tricks on his neighbors, specifically Mrs. Hess. And he goes into his brother's room and finds this rifle. Basically, it's some kind of a pellet gun. It's a really nice looking pellet gun, if that's what it is. And he takes it and he starts aiming it into her house. And you can kind of see Mrs. Hess walking around by the scope. And then, if you didn't know any better, it would seem like he is looking to shoot her. However, he has a remote taped to his gun, and he's messing with her TV and turning on MTV or something. It looks like this guy Seal or something comes on.
A little bump and grind. I love it too, because Miss Hess is walking around. She's got a smoke and a drink going. It's probably 10:30 on a Wednesday, and she's hanging out, just smoking, and she just has a pour one. I mean, she's retired, so she's just hanging out doing whatever. But I thought that was amazing. This is a kid again. This is a kid's Christmas movie. Okay. This lady is she's walking around with a belt of scotch and a dart going at not even lunch in the middle of the week.
No, she's retired, obviously.
Yeah, they just, you can just get a buzz going anytime you want when you're just that old hanging out by yourself.
So meanwhile, our 4 terrorists have decided to try and integrate themselves into this small little neighborhood on this street. And they put their spying and terrorist skills to effect, and they basically start assuming identities and acting like they actually live on this street. One guy is up on a telephone pole bugging this box. I don't know what he's doing. It just seems like he's unclipping wires and clipping into other ones, because I think all we really gain from this, I think we're supposed to be able to tell that they can hear phone calls. I think that's what the point of that is. Mr. Beaupre is just kind of driving around taking pictures along with the other guy. And I found this to be interesting. The female villain is really going all in on trying to fit into this neighborhood. She assumes this whole Southern Belle kind of accent and role here, and is full on role play, and goes into this house tour, an open house real estate show or something like that, and she's like, oh my goodness, my children are just going to love this. And then she leaves and then she's looking around. She sees this dog, this golden retriever, in the backyard. So what does she do to fit into the neighborhood? Of course, she's going to be like other people, and she has a dog. So she goes and steals this dog. She's a kid. She's a dog napper. She kidnapped a dog.
The neighborhood they live in is immaculate too. Alex lives in a killer neighborhood. Like, his family does well.
Yeah.
This is like, this in the first two Home Alone movies, like Peter and Kate McAllister live in a nice area, but like these guys live in a nicer area. It's crazy.
So Unkevin is spying with his scope from the gun, looking around, and he can kind of tell that there's these four terrorists. He doesn't know they're terrorists, but he can kind of tell that they're standing out a little bit. He gets this telescope and takes this upstairs to like this widow's peak, where he can basically see everything that's going on the street with this telescope. And he spots one of the terrorists in just running kind of around, and he spots the female one walking the dog, and he recognizes the dog as one of his friend's dog. So he thinks that's weird. And then he happens to glance up into another home across the street, and he sees Mr. Beaupre inside a house. And he's like immediately like, oh my God, I've got to call the cops. So without hesitation, he runs downstairs and calls 911 and tells them that there are burglars breaking into the house across the street. Or maybe just one burglar, I'm not sure. But he says that the house across the street is currently being broken into. And when the police arrive, they don't get an answer when they knock. So they bust the door down. They kick the door in right off of its hinges. And go around the house. They don't find anybody because, you know, the talented spy that Mr. Beaupre is, he managed to get out of the house and reactivate the security alarm before the cops arrived. So the cops are like, well, there's nobody here. Case closed. This kid's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the boy that cried wolf, you could say. I think that's at least what the cops seem to think it is. They think this kid's just, you know, acting up, just being a mischievous little, whatever he is, 10-year-old kid.
It's kind of sad because the cop scolds him a little bit, but he does acknowledge that, you know, we can't go too hard on him because if there is a real emergency, we don't want him to be afraid to call us. So once the cop leaves, his mother really leans into it. She's like just scolding him, and she's like, you can't be wasting people's time with this kind of stuff. And he's like, but Mom, I know that I saw somebody over in that house. And they're like, look, it's impossible. Couldn't have happened. I don't know why everyone was so quick to dismiss him. Like, if he says that he saw somebody, I feel like they should look into it a little bit harder.
I thought about that too. I was trying to think if I was an adult and some kid told me this, how would I react to this too? Because you're right. He did seem to say, he's like, it's a white male. He's, you know, roughly this foot tall, and he's got like black hair. And he kind of gave a description, and he's like, they were in a gray van, you know? And I'd be like, did you get a partial license plate? Like, it's worth at least looking into, you know? Did you get something? What'd you see, kid?
So now we're at the next morning, and his mother has already gone to work, and his father's getting ready to leave, and is just saying goodbye to Alex here because I think he is actually going to Cleveland for a business trip, and he leaves. So immediately, Alex is alone. The day after, he called 911. His parents have left him alone again. He knows that he can call Mrs. Brest, though, if he needs any help. So now we are going to the streets, broad daylight. I'm going to say it's morning or something. One of the terrorists here are dressed like an old man with a cane. He's walking very slow. And we have the female one. She's great. She's just like the master of disguises here. Now she is like a mother getting exercise, pushing this stroller around with a baby, an obvious baby doll. And she's going like way too fast. Like anybody who would be watching her and might actually believe that there's a baby in this carriage would probably call the cops on her.
You'd be concerned. You'd be like, you're giving this kid whiplash. Like, you need to relax there, lady. Especially you're running in like the snow and the ice right now. You don't want to fall and hurt yourself. So
Mrs. Pruitt decides that she's going to go to town, I guess, to get some hard liquor iced teas or something like that. And
some Mike's Hard Lemonade at 9:30 in the morning.
Get ready for the afternoon. So anyways, as soon as she leaves, Mr. Beaupre is at the house and he is inside. And Alex sees Mr. Beaupre in this house through a window using his telescope. What do you think he does? He's like, I've got to call the cops. There's another burglar in another house on the street. So he does exactly what he should do. And he calls the cops. So within minutes, the cavalry is on its way again. The cops bust in the door and they start wandering through the house. They don't see anything. They can't find anything at all. And they determine that there's nobody in there. Alex's imagination must have just gotten the better of him again. But actually, we see that the fantastic and talented Mr. Beaupre is actually hiding in the ceiling, like the exposed part of a ceiling, and like holding himself in place, like almost like Mission Impossible style, like in an elevator or something like that. And yeah, it's pretty impressive for a guy like him. But hey, he's Mr. Beaupre.
Yeah, he's like American Ninja Warrior, just hanging out in the joists of that ceiling there, just stuck to it like Spider-Man.
So now Alex is going to get another scolding here from the officer and his mother about the seriousness of calling 911.
I feel bad for the kid because he's so committed to this. And again, this is when he brings up the butt inspection gloves. He's like, there was somebody in there with butt inspection gloves walking around the house. I saw them, all right? And the cops just don't seem to believe him. So Kevin is not sure what is going on here, but he knows somebody's up to no good. So he decides that he is going to get to the bottom of this himself. So the next day, not Kevin wires up his whole house, I guess, with a bunch of just cables, these little video cables, and runs them all the way up to the top of his house now. And he is going to outfit his car with a video camera. He's gonna drive around the neighborhood and try to find the burglars.
Yeah, he basically just duct tapes this camera to his toy car, and this toy car has the longest range on any toy I've ever seen. Because this truck goes around the entire neighborhood, like across the street and into houses and stuff.
Once again, Kevin looks out his window and he sees the van cruising by, and he sees the old man out there in the crazy Starbucks lady jogger going around, and he knows they're up to no good. So he gets that car out there and he goes across the street because he figures that they're going over to the Alcott's house. For whatever reason, he's done his math. He figures this is where they're going. Somehow this kid is keeping up with international spies or terrorists or weapons dealers or whatever these guys are. He is just with them. He's about 3 steps ahead of them, it seems like. He's got a whole map drawn of these people's house. Somehow I don't understand. Maybe he's friends with the Alcotts, but he's been over there enough. But he's got a whole little blueprint drawn out now. So he drives over to their house, and Mr. Beaupre is in there just kind of rifling through stuff. And it almost looks like he hears the toy car, and he turns around, and Kevin backs up the car. He doesn't see him. And so he's just kind of hanging out for a second. And then Kevin, after a few seconds, drives the car forward and gets a good shot of Mr. Beaupre. And he's like, I got him. You're toast, bud. And then Beaupre walks off the screen. And within an instant, he jumps back again. And he's looking at this car, just face right in this big old fisheye lens.
When he jumps out the car, he yells at it. He goes out of sight, and then just out of nowhere, he goes, "Ah!" Like he's trying to scare a kid, like the way you do like peekaboo and scare a kid. I thought that was really funny. It's like, why would he do that?
Why don't you walk behind the car and just pick the car up and just be like, son of a bitch, what's going on here? He's just staring at this car now, and they've got like an Apple Watch before an Apple Watch. It's kind of like a little spy watch, little James Bond spy watch they got going on here. And he talks into it, and he's like, someone's watching me. He goes to grab his car, and Kevin backs it up now. And it kind of goes back, and he ends up knocking over a pile of laundry onto this car. And so Beaupre's walking around now looking for this car, doesn't see it. This car is under the laundry here now, and it's just kind of videotaping Beaupre. And somehow Kevin here has it in him to call the neighbor's house, and it goes to voicemail, and he has not Buzz, his little parrot, starts singing into this the answering machine. And that's kind of a thing that happens in this movie too, is this little parrot. I don't think they ever give it a name, but this parrot just apparently just serves as the angels with filthy souls, kind of that guy.
The gangsters from the first two, Home Alone movies.
Yeah, he's Johnny. He's not Johnny, unfortunately. I miss Johnny. I wish they had have brought that back. That gag was just priceless. Leave it on the doorstep and get the hell out of here. Miss that guy.
The filthy animal guy.
So this little parrot starts talking into it and singing into it. So Beaupre thinks that somebody's in the house now. So he kind of goes off to look. And at that moment, Kevin uses it to just zip out of the door. It flies out and it gets stuck on some ice and flips over and rolls around, and then it's kind of just stuck on its side now. Beaupre gets outside and he looks at it and he pulls the tape from it, and the screen goes fuzzy. And all the criminals kind of now rally around Beaupre. They all come back and they check out the car to see what's going on here.
I like this part when the female villain is like trying to run and catch up with him, and she's running down the street with this baby carriage and does like a full 360, like swinging it in the air, and it like slams on the grass and like and, like bounces a few times. Like you can see people watching from their houses. Yeah, they would totally call the cops on her.
Yeah, this is where I would have just a problem as a civilian. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you, lady? If there is an actual child in this, you're insane and you should not be doing this right now. There's something wrong with you. Beaupre gives the card to the lady and he goes, there's a chick in the house. I got to deal with this lady because he still thinks this parrot on the phone, which is still somehow this voicemail is still going. Okay. This is the longest voicemail that's going ever. He's like, there's a lady inside. I got to deal with her. So he gives the car to this female bad guy. So she's got the car now. And I guess she just accidentally turns the camera back on. So not Kevin realizes this and he shoots the car off now and it starts driving away. And he just kind of drives it across basically this entire neighborhood, it seems like.
This car is ridiculous. Like she's holding it and it like, apparently it has so much force to it that it runs right up her face and leaves tread marks, flies through the air, and these terrorists cannot catch up with him.
Yeah, well, I don't remember. I think our little RC cars, they kind of moved, right? They might go, I don't know, maybe 10 miles an hour. I guess a human runs like 15, 20, I don't know.
But I mean, we're talking about 4 terrorists here. And I mean, like we're talking like James Bond terrorists. These aren't like, like just poorly trained terrorists. These guys seem like they're supposedly very efficient in what they do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I feel like they're at least spy level athleticism and skill. That's what it seems like. They make them out to be, right? But somehow these guys are also just complete idiots too, it looks like.
So these 4 terrorists are put in the chase of this car, and shenanigans ensue where they basically just turn into a bunch of clowns and kind of headbutt each other, run into each other, flying over an actual car that they're driving, chasing this toy car. So Alex is back here in his house, and he's thinking to himself, why are these terrorists after this toy car? So first off, he's disappointed to see that Mr. Beaupre removed the cassette from this video recorder. We're in the 90s. We're still using cassettes. So he doesn't have any footage. However, while he's wondering what's important about this car, he kind of opens the inside of it, and the chip that they were looking for falls out. So just so we're clear on this, Mr. Beaupre, this terrorist, he had the toy car that he was looking for. They had it in their hands. And he, instead of taking the chip that he hid in there, the thing that they're searching for, he removed the cassette tape from the camera.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess he wants the evidence too, but you're right. I mean, like immediately they should have secured the chip. And by that, I mean, hoop the chip. I'm still on that. I feel like he should have done that. They would just like, it's a $10 million chip.
I think the thing he should have done immediately was remove the battery from the car.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Turn the off switch off.
Alex here is investigating this chip with a magnifying glass, and he sees military Air Force numbers and stuff on it. So, he calls the Air Force. So Alex calls the Air Force Recruitment Center and tells him that he's got this chip. The guy kind of like laughs him off. He's like, okay, kid, sure, I'll write this number down. And then that's that.
So they sit around the dinner table that evening, minus the dad because he's gone away to Chicago. And the mom mentions that tomorrow she's going to have to leave not Kevin at home again. Okay, again, they're going to have to leave not Kevin at home again because she's got to go into work from 12 to 5. And she says, I need you guys to come home right after school and look after your brother until your dad gets home from the airport. So they're kind of like, I don't know, maybe we can, maybe we can't kind of thing. So she's just like, you're going to do it anyways. So the point is, while they're complaining and fighting this out, the phone rings. And we are led to believe that it's one of Alex's friends. It's the mom. And she seems to think that Alex has her, quote, toy car, and it's her son's toy car. And so this lady, this mom, who's unfortunately named Karen, she says, no, Alex has his own little toy car here. And so you see on the other side of the line that it's the bad guys. They're all sitting there, and the lady, she's smiling. She's like, we got him. This is the house. And so Kevin comes by, and he hangs up the phone on the mom, and he's like, you got to get off the phone. She's like, what are you doing, not Kevin? Well, this is really rude. You can't be hanging up the phone on me. Like, that's inappropriate. And he's like, call that number back. I dare you, because you're not going to, it's not going to be this kid's mom on the other side of the phone. So she calls him back. She calls the number back, and they've got, again, the bad guys, they've got about 4 or 5 cell phones going here. And they're redirecting the phone calls because, like you said before, they just cut some wires magically, and that's how phones work apparently in this world. So, they've got access to all these phones, and they intercept the phone call. And it's that lady again. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's me. How are you? Yeah, no worries. It's okay. We'll figure it out." And they just kind of laugh it off. And not Kevin's like, "Well, they must have intercepted the phone call. He's somehow he's keeping abreast of everything that is going on here. He's just that smart. This little 10-year-old kid with a chicken pox." And and so he goes upstairs and he's just like, "They're gonna come. They're gonna come tomorrow. He knows it's gonna happen tomorrow. Apparently, for some reason, they're gonna show up between the hours of 12 and 5, like the cable guy, and attack him." So he's kind of gonna prep some stuff, and he's gonna develop his own battle plan and get ready to be home alone. 3.
So we get our annual montage here of Alex booby trapping his host, and instead of like the epic Christmas music from the original Home Alone movies, that one that was like dun 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 dun, dun, the Carol Bell song, this one we get some really young teen punk rock type music about my town, like "This is my town, watch your step if you come around." Like if you've ever heard Simple Plan, or for the really angry high pitched teens and stuff like that kind of rock, it's just like that, and I miss the original music.
Yeah, it's very dated for the 90s, like that late 90s kind of, like, it's not pop punk, but it's almost like that band Lit was kind of like, you're like, oh, it's kind of aggressive. You're like, I kind of see it's a little edgy. I can see where you're going here.
Anyways, my main point about the music is that it doesn't feel like Christmas. It's not Christmas music. So that's kind of a difference here. So during this montage, we see on the news that there's going to be a massive snowstorm the next morning. And the other thing that's funny about this montage is that he's doing this like while everyone's at home sleeping. So this 8-year-old just gets up in the middle of the night after everyone's gone to sleep and starts booby trapping his house. And like, we're going to find out, these are some pretty serious booby traps. Like, you think, I'm just trying to be safe wise, I would wait for my family to leave. Like, anybody could get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom or something and end up in one of these traps. But fortunately for Kevin here, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you've got a good point, because we're gonna see later he leaves a bit of a weapon in one of the closets, and like, man, you walk into the wrong thing in the middle of the night there, it's gonna be you're in a world of hurt. And also, I kind of want to note too, the traps in this movie we're gonna see they obviously, that was probably a note they got in this movie. They're like, look, you're going to make another Home Alone movie. You've got to ease up on some of the abuse you're going to be giving these people, because we can't have it so violent. Because they really I feel like they pulled a lot of punches in this movie. They made this, it's very, I mean, in Home Alone, the first one and the second one, like, there's like micro machines and goop and stuff too. But like, people get hit in the face with paint cans and they're getting electrocuted and bricks thrown at them. So it's pretty hardcore too, right? And this one, a lot of the traps are really goofy. They really very like kid level goofy.
Well, and they're very Rube Goldberg device-esque kind of stuff. So little Alex's first trap here, his first trick, I guess, is he has a dog whistle. So the female villain here, who's pretending to be a friend down the street, shows up in the morning to meet Alex and presumably hold the family up and get this car. I don't know. I think that they are actually expecting the parents to be away, but they haven't left yet. So anyways, while she's at the door, Alex is kind of peeking out from the left and right, blowing this high-pitched dog whistle that only dogs can hear, I guess. And as he's doing that, this dog is also going back and forth and coiling his leash up around this female villain here. And then Alex runs to the back of the house, around, and kind of hides behind a bush and blows the whistle, and this dog runs off towards Alex and drags this lady away. So here's the noises that she makes. Okay, so if it was, we'll say 9 o'clock in the morning on a bright and sunny day, I think, like, in the neighborhood, I think I might hear that and be very concerned. Like, it sounds like a girl is being killed, maybe.
I find this incredible too, because this is a very well-to-do neighborhood. You think these people would have security cameras, or there's people hanging out at home already. They think that you just can't just do this stuff and patrol a neighborhood like this. I don't think in a very rich neighborhood like this. I feel like people would be like, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here. We don't know who the hell you are.
And like, were they not taught anything at their spy school about being subtle? You know, if you trip and you're being dragged, like you're a spy, a terrorist. Like, wouldn't you want to not draw attention to yourself and be not make all that kind of crazy racket? But anyways, nobody hears her, and she just kind of wipes out in the alleyway, and this dog is finally free.
So Kevin's mom comes downstairs and she's getting ready to go to work now. And she's she's about to grab her coat out of the closet and it's booby trapped. So not Kevin makes an excuse. He says, you know what, you should go grab coffee, Mom. I'll grab your coat. Don't worry about it. So she goes and she makes coffee, and she actually makes little Kevin there peanut butter and I don't know if this is Nutella or jam or something, but she makes him a little sandwich. So he gets her coat, booby traps the door, whatever, and he's sends her on her way. She gives him a little sandwich. Says, if there's any problems, let me know, give me a call, and have a good day. And so he's running around now, and he's completing the rest of his booby traps in his house. And one of the things he's got here is he covers his pool with something that looks like a trampoline, and he makes a fake pool beside that trampoline. He sets that up right underneath the window. One of the other things he does too, which really this wouldn't work as well electrically, is he gets an extension cord, and he just basically gets a bunch of copper and plugs it all into this extension cord and covers it in yarn. He sets up this electrified fence kind of thing in his backyard, and he's going around. He's kind of booby trapping a bunch of other stuff around his house real quick here. And you can see that the other bad guys are getting into position here as well too. So Mr. Beaupre and the female bad guy girl, whatever she is, they go up to Mrs. Hess and they kind of sucker her into something, and they pull her into the garage and they basically kidnap her. So while this is all going on, again, Kevin is getting ready because he knows that they are about to come over and attack him.
So Kevin has just finished wiring up this little makeshift electrical barbed wire. Long-haired villain comes up, and there's this sign, and it says, "Danger, electrical wire." So they're talking to each other. The guy with the long hair takes out this pair of wire cutters and says that he misses being a kid and he forgets how stupid they were. And the other guy at the back says, "Be careful about scaring little kids because they might wet their pants." And as he's saying that, he's sitting down in this chair, and the other guy snips the electrical wire in the front, and they both simultaneously get electrocuted like crazy. This is obviously a play on Marv being electrocuted in the two prior movies, but it's not nearly as funny, and it's like a lot more cartoony. Like their hairdos are changing and stuff. I mean, with that said, I suppose Marv did turn into a skeleton for a moment, but this is like just a lot.
You know what though? So I think this is also, I mean, I could elaborate on this further later on, but I feel like this is sort of a downfall in this movie where they have 4 bad guys and you just need to have 2 bad guys, because I feel that's more endearing. The fact that we're struggling just to even name these people or describe who they are, it's tough, right? Because there's so many of these characters in this movie. It's just not the same. You don't kind of develop the same relationship. And Marv and Harry in this movie, as much as they're trying to kill this kid, there's something about them that you kind of like too. There's something that's funny about it's Daniel Stern and it's Joe Pesci. So, but I love though when the one guy with the long hair, I kind of thought this guy was like Kenny G. When he snips the wires with his pliers, he's just getting lit up, and his hair does this like sideshow Bob thing. It was amazing. It was the closest thing you could ever see to real life sideshow Bob hair for 1 second. It was amazing. And the other guy, I think they hooked up a car battery to this chair. I think that's what was supposed to be going on there too. So again, that's just another one of those things he just threw out there. He's like, maybe they're going to sit on a chair and I'll electrocute them. I don't know. But it doesn't matter.
So bad guy Kenny G decides that he's going to go to the front door, and he makes a run for it, but he slips on a welcome mat that has a bunch of marbles underneath of it. So he slips and he falls. Mr. Beaupre tells him, get up. Come on now, get yourself together. And they go to the door, and right before they're about to get to the door, they see this very thin wire. It appears to be wired to something above them. And they're like, haha, he's not going to get us. So they cut this wire. And as they cut the wire, this giant trunk full of books comes like barreling, sliding out of this window directly above them and slams them in the face, crushes them.
Yeah, well, because there's a set of barbells above their head, and they're like, this is what this kid is going to rig up here. They're like, this kid's an idiot, So obviously the barbells don't fall, so they're like, well, okay, nothing's happening. And what happens is this kind of sets off this giant elaborate sort of mousetrap thing that takes probably a good 5 to 10 seconds to actually happen. So they're just standing there like a bunch of idiots talking to each other, like, oh, isn't that stupid that nothing happened? And then of course they get smashed in the face with a trunk full of books from like 20 feet up in the air, which damn, that would hurt. So I mean, like that's kind of violent. That would hurt a little bit, right? And then again, once they're on the ground, that set of barbells comes down, and again, sort of another tribute to Harry and Marv with the bar with that giant steel bar in the second movie, just comes down and just smashes them right in the face again too. So that was pretty good. And meanwhile, this guy who kind of looks like Norman Bates, the other bad guy, he's walking around the back here, and he just gets hooked by like a fish hook just hanging around the back. He's just like, what is it? He just starts karate fighting. Nothing really is what seems like happenings here.
Yeah, he gets frustrated and starts swinging his arms around, but all of these little fish wire lines are just like connected to different faucets in the backyard that keep on turning them as he starts moving. And yeah, he starts getting sprayed in the face with like water hoses.
And he just stands there and takes it. He doesn't just try to move out of the way.
Yeah, he doesn't run away.
Right? Yeah, right. It's freezing outside, and you're just standing there getting hit in the face with a hose like an idiot. So I mean, again, these people they steal. They do $10 million chip steal buys for people, international terrorists, and they can't just think to step sideways through a hose going off in the middle of wintertime. I don't know what's going on here, but that happened. So while that happens, Alex runs across the other side of the house, and he's got it's like a set of underwear, it looks like, or something like that.
Yeah, a diaper or something.
Yeah, and he's got it all jerry-rigged up with a bunch of bungee cords and I guess skipping ropes and whatever kids have, that kind of stuff. And I guess it's supposed to be plaster of Paris, or it's some sort of plasticine or paper mache or something like that. It's like a casting kind of stuff, it looks like. And Kenny G comes by now, and he cuts a little wire, which again sort of rigs up this whole elaborate slingshot, which Not Kevin is kind of controlling. And as soon as he opens the shutters, there's Not Kevin. He just lets him have it with this white pasty stuff right to the face.
Yeah. And then,
I just realized what I just said there. And yeah, so all right, it's a Christmas movie.
yeah.
Good children putting white pasties. Anyways.
So the fantastic spy, Mr. Beaupre here, is at the front of the house in broad daylight, on his knees, peeking through the mail slot. I don't know how he intends on gaining entry into the house through this method, but it's Mr. Beaupre. So anyways, while he's like looking around, peeping through this mail slot, Alex here pokes up and he's like, hello, and sprays him in the eyes with it, like through this mail slot with a black can of spray paint. And obviously, like, Mr. Beaupre is like bewildered by this. So he's like, and kind of turns around, and he's just outside. And now he has like this. He looks like the Hamburglar. Yeah, like looks like he has a Hamburglar mask.
I thought it looked like he was in like a death metal band now at this point. It was amazing, or like a raccoon or something. This is hilarious. Meanwhile, again, this guy Norman Bates is creeping around the back here, and he goes into a garage, and he sees something that looks like a little kid up in the rafters, just hanging out. So he apparently thinks it's this kid, Alex. And so he grabs this kid, pulls him down really hard, finds out it's a monkey just dressed up in a hat or something like that. This man he's like an international spy, okay? He's an international weapons smuggler or something. And it's a monkey in some suspenders or pajamas and a hat. And that's a kid.
Why would you think that is like a kid is hiding like 10 feet above you in the rafters, just like with his feet dangling down?
Hairy feet. Is this kid a hobbit?
Yeah.
What is going on here? While he does that, it's attached to this monkey's rigged up to a cord, and a lawnmower now comes down. Okay, and this lawnmower buzzes him.
This is an old-fashioned lawnmower, by the way. This is like one with like actual like rotating blades on it, not like your one that spins around kind of thing.
Yeah, this looks like this would have hurt pretty bad. And this thing comes down and just munches him right in the face, okay? And this is what I'm talking about. This guy gets up now, and he is now Ross Geller from Friends. That is exactly what this guy looks like.
He does. He looks a lot like Ross now. You're right. But it's weird. He has absolutely no bruises on his face or anything. He just has a bad haircut. So a quick rundown on some of the booby traps around here, and there's a lot in this movie because there's 4 villains. Mr. Beaupre gets hit in the nuts with a punching glove that comes barreling out of a closet. While that's going on, the female villain is like basically getting stuck in a swamp around the outside of the yard, like around the house. She's just stuck. And inside the house, the long hair guy finally gets in and he steps into these mega block block holders where it's like basically these little boxes on wheels, and his feet are stuck in those. And he proceeds to walk around the entire house with these on his feet. It's really stupid.
Yeah, well, his feet are like glued in or something with something crazy. So he apparently can't get his feet out of it. And you're right, he is now, I guess, kind of mega block roller skating around the house, and he falls down some stairs. That was kind of funny. And then he accidentally, when he does that, he lands at the bottom of the stairs. His gun goes off, and I guess it covers him in a bunch of, to put it politely, the toilet water of the house. It sounds like, or looks like, I should say. Probably smells like too.
This isn't making me feel like Christmas. Like this isn't giving me the Christmas spirit, this movie so far. And that kind of like was like the epitome of it for me at this point when I was watching this movie. And I was like, huh. You put that in there, but you couldn't put even like a few more Christmas songs or anything like that.
I guess so. I think in the second movie they both get covered in some pretty gross stuff, right? And they also get attacked by pigeons. So it's not like these guys were ever treated with any dignity. I guess,
Yeah,
right?
I suppose. So Alice here, the female villain on the team, she's finally had enough of being stuck, and she is at the back door of the house, I guess, and she's out like near the sidewalk. For whatever reason, she decides that she's going to perform gymnastics in order to get on the deck. So she just starts going into like full like Olympic gymnastic mode and starts like doing these cartwheels and flips, a lot of flips in the air, and lands on the porch. But apparently Alex has cut out a hole in the porch so that she falls right through into the house and into the basement. So while this has all been going on, the FBI finally got the lead that Alex left with the Air Force recruitment or something like that. Basically, they know that the chip that they're looking for to seize from these terrorists is in Chicago, so they decide they're going to go to Chicago. Alex's mother is stuck in traffic on her way home, and their father is stuck at the airport because of this storm. So, back in the house, all 4 villains have gathered together downstairs and decide they're going to chase Alex upstairs. And the one guy who is like covered in crap, he decides to change. At this point, all 4 villains have like all their guns drawn. They're just chasing him around the house. And I had a hard time like enjoying this part because it's just like so dumb. Like it's over the top dumb. I know that Marv and Harry were stupid, but these guys are just like boring dumb. Like they all have pistols. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to get this kid by now. They're obviously not afraid to shoot their guns.
And there's a lot of these rehash kind of jokes in this movie too, where you just see a rat that's stuck in Ross's crotch there, and the girl comes by and she sees it and she goes like, she's kind of doing that Harry, don't move kind of moment there, and she just clubs him in the groin with a crowbar. So stuff like that, and you're like you see this and you're like, okay, we've been here, we've done this. You need to do something different.
We've done the being kicked in the groin, hitting the groin joke like 3 or 4 times already in this movie.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe we should play something real quick here, because I did find that this was quite the highlight for me in this movie. In a movie that I just really loathed at all points, I really did enjoy this one spot.
You smacked my winky.
Okay. Yeah, that really stood out to me when I was watching this. Like, what a weird choice of verbiage to just add in there. Like, again, we know this joke. Like, yeah, okay, it hurts when guys get hit in the groin. They're real, but they're leaning into this hard. You smacked my winky, and I would say that was hardly a smack.
That was like she went cricket on him. Just lean into that. That was amazing.
I would take Joe Pesci going and like acting like he wants to swear but not swearing at all any day over someone saying, "You smacked my winky."
So they're all at the top of the house now, and while they're all up there, what's happened is young Alex has beat them to the top of the house, gone down I guess in this house, they have a little dumb waiter. They have a little elevator kind of thing going up and down a couple floors. So he jumps into it and he goes down to the first floor and removes the bottom of this elevator, which is just a piece of wood, I guess, in this little elevator. And he closes the door, runs away out the front of the house. And now we have, again, the sort of the classic, I'm up here, you big horse's ass moment where not Kevin is out front with his little microchip. And the bad guys are up at the top of this house and they're looking down. He's like, guess what I got, suckers? Come and get it. And I guess the lady is just like, oh, clearly this kid jumped down from here, even though there's snow on the trampoline and there's no snow prints, nothing. Doesn't look like this kid's jumped. She's just thought this kid jumped off the top of this house and onto this trampoline. That's apparently what happened in her little CIA spy mind, that she just thinks that this is going on. She's quantified that and made that calculation. So she's like, hey, Ross, Kenny G, you guys jump off the top. You're going first. So she basically just kind of like pushes him out the window after a little bit of arguing there. And they fly off of this roof into the fake trampoline, which is just actually a pool. And so they're stuck, I guess, in this pool. They're not really stuck, but it seems like they're stuck now. They're just really cold. And they fall in probably a good 20 feet into a pool in the middle of wintertime. This would hurt pretty bad, I think, at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the one guy, after being sprayed with all that water and stuff, should be running like the risk of hypothermia at this point.
Oh, yeah. He's very sick. I would think so, too, right? They'd like, that's got to hurt. But so she's like, well, you know what? I'm not taking that way out. So the girl, she decides she's just going to just open the door for the dumbwaiter and not look and just get into this thing.
Ass backwards, by the way.
Yeah. Instead of just actually going downstairs, you walked up the stairs. You're an adult. You're like, I'm just going to act like this little kid now who's already out the front door. And we've already been fighting for 3 minutes before all this happened. Before I sent these two idiots out the window, we were already fighting for 3 minutes. This kid's probably had a 5-minute head start now. They could have just walked down 2 flights of stairs in 30 seconds and been out the door. And they would have caught up this kid and shot him in the alleyway. And this movie would have been over. But she just decides to go, I'm going to just, like you said, go ass backwards down a dumbwaiter and not look. And she just rockets down about 25 feet into the bottom of this elevator. And that's it. She's done.
Yeah, she's probably dead.
There's a very good chance that would mess you up. Really, I don't even want to visualize how bad that would look. So what happens now is not Kevin runs across the street and he finds Mrs. Hess in the garage. And he sees her and he's trying to like bring her back because it looks like she's not doing that great. She's pretty cold. I guess she's dying. That's kind of the vibe it gets like. She's like Splinter in the first Ninja Turtles movie when they really beat him up.
Yeah, she seems like barely lucid. Like she seems like she's maybe like passing out and dying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I guess they've kept this door open, so she's been getting a bit of a draft now for probably about 20 minutes. It seems like.
And her mouth has been covered with duct tape.
Yeah. So she's not doing that great. It looks like. So he's trying to bring her back here, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Danny Filth. This guy Beaupre, he's just like snuck out behind a mannequin, and he's got the little black on his face there, and he's like, "Give me that chip, kid." Grabs the car, smashes it. For whatever reason, this kid had this chip in his hand, was waving it at him. But this guy, again, in his little spy mind, thinks that he put the chip back in the car. Because he like grabs the car and he smashes it. And he's like, where is this chip? It's not in the car. And he's like, give me the chip or I'm going to shoot you. And what's happened, probably about 5 minutes before all this happened, was when not Kevin's mom called. I guess he had planted a fake gun downstairs. Okay, a little gun that he kind of spray painted and made it look like a normal, I guess, a gun. He's just hoping this guy has the same exact gun. And he staged it downstairs. And when this guy went and picked up the phone, he grabbed not Kevin's gun. I guess it's a little dart gun. So little not Kevin there, he's like, that's not a real gun, dude. This is a gun. And he pulls out a gun. This kid pulls out a gun now. And this kid puts a gun in the face of Beaupre. And he's like, I'm going to shoot you, dude. And Beaupre kind of slowly backs up and he gets the hell out of there and he just runs away. And we find out it's actually just a bubble gun.
Yeah, it's still with bubbles.
Yeah, it's not that bad. You're like, oh, at first you're like, this was kind of dangerous. I don't know why you would do that, but you know.
So the magical Mr. Beaupre has once again used his amazing spying skills and techniques and has disappeared. So at this point, some giant snowplows are rushing down the street with cop cars behind them, and the SWAT teams are here, the police are here, Kevin's family are here, and they're arresting these criminals. The two guys are basically frozen stiff in the backyard. They might be dead.
Wait, can we just? It's like they're still sitting inside this water. They fell down in there, and it's not like they were apparently mortally wounded or anything, because they're just kind of standing there talking to themselves, like with their arms crossed. Like, doesn't this suck? They didn't at any point try to get out of this water. They're still in there.
They're probably so close to death that they can't do anything.
They didn't try to get out at all. They just sat there like a bunch of idiots getting hypothermia.
And the lady who fell down the dumbwaiter shaft, the cops are carrying her, like 4 of them are carrying her out, and she's just basically completely contorted and mangled. The FBI congratulate Alex here on, a job well done catching these terrorists. The FBI agent says, he goes, I've been chasing Mr. Beaupre for 7 years, and he got away again. You think, how much does this FBI agent suck if he can't catch Mr. Beaupre?
This guy covered in paint.
Yeah.
Running down the street in the middle of Chicago.
Yeah, he looks like the Hamburglar on like an afternoon, like and like a bright and sunny afternoon after a storm.
The Hamburglar in the Matrix.
Yeah, dressed in all black, like on a snowy day, right? Like it's not hard to find him. So, anyways, I don't know where the writers were going with this, but this movie's still going, and the parrot that we spoke of makes a comeback here, and he is driving the toy truck with his claws, and he's driving it through the backyard, and then he goes into this like makeshift igloo, like a little playhouse for kids kind of thing, and Mr. Beaupre is in there hiding. He's hiding in the backyard in the kids' playhouse.
He never left.
Yeah. I don't know why this reminded me of Saddam Hussein. Like, like, after all those years of searching for him and trying to get him, they found him in a hole in the backyard. This is like, and this is before they caught him. It's almost like maybe Saddam Hussein took notes. But anyways, Mr. Beaupre, this super advanced spy, he couldn't find a better place to hide. He was already out of sight running away, and he chose to hide in the playhouse. He chose to stay on the property and hide in Alex's playhouse.
Just sitting there in a playhouse that is apparently conveniently rigged up with a bunch of fireworks.
Yeah, there's tons of fireworks. Where did these come from?
I don't know. This guy apparently never observed this at all. Somehow, again, this little parrot pilots this race car, okay, with his little parrot claws, independently, autonomously, on his own, of his own volition, okay, goes out to this igloo, flies up with a match in his mouth, converses with the fantastic Beaupre, okay?
Yes, the Beaupre has one cracker.
Yeah, and he offers him, he says, give me more crackers. And this guy's like, I've got one cracker. And if I was him, I would have snapped in half and like, here's 2 crackers, and try to like Jedi mind trick this bird. It's a stupid bird. But he doesn't.
Yeah, but the bird's like, no dice.
That's it. The bird's just like, I need 2 crackers to call this off, and so you don't have it. So he cracks the match, apparently.
The bird cracks the match.
The bird, yeah, with this beak, cracks, okay, he lights a match and sets off a bunch of fireworks. And this guy just stands there and accepts that. This guy, who apparently was responsible for a $10 million chip that was going to a North Korean terrorist group, that his life was on the line for. He sits there and just goes along with all this, and the fireworks go off, and the cops are in the backyard. They're like, "Oh, there's Beaupre. He's actually kind of an idiot."
Alex's father is just getting home now, and he's seeing all the construction workers they're hard at work fixing the house up. I find really odd, like the whole construction crew just decides to come in like after like this crazy crime scene where an old lady was like kidnapped, and all this crazy stuff going on.
No forensic analysis, nothing. We're just going to completely remove any evidence from this crime scene. We're just going to cover it all up. No problem. Because we got to fix these guys' house up. It's Christmas. Apparently. I don't even know if it's Christmas. It's just some time where there's snow. It could be February.
Yeah, and we find out through the parents and his siblings that Alex was given a reward of something that's 6 figures. We know that. So Alex is given a lot of money, and now everyone loves him. Then the parrot comes in, still driving this little toy truck, little car, and the mouse is also sitting on it. And the parrot says, "Gentlemen, start your engines." And then everybody just starts giggling. Like the siblings, they all giggle like, "Oh, parrot. Oh, you."
So the bad guys all have chickenpox now. And that's just how the movie ends. You see their mug shots, and that's how they close out. And to me, this is a completely blown opportunity because, again, the first movie, you have the Wet Bandits. The second movie, we have the Sticky Bandits. In this, they could have cut to a clip of a newspaper that declared them the Itchy Bandits.
Oh.
How amazing would that have been?
That's good. That would have been a good idea.
Why did they not do that, right? This movie is a complete blown opportunity. This whole thing is a blown opportunity to me. Now that we're at the end of this, I'm glad we're here.
But yeah, let's talk about this.
Let's just let it go, Tim. I think that's what we need to do here.
What was the point of him having this family, like the siblings? Like, for what the siblings were in the movie, they might as well not have been in the movie. He might as well not have even had a father. So, like, this would have made, I feel like the stakes would have been a little bit higher had it just been a single mom, his mom, and little Alex here.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think that would at least make more sense as to why he's alone all the time. But yeah, I think just the brother alone, there's only two sort of reasons that he's there, and it's kind of just almost the bird and his little telescope that he uses on his little airsoft gun or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of pointless. Like, at least like in the original Home Alone movies, Kevin's siblings served to the plot, like the character arc of Kevin. He butted heads with them because he was kind of wrong. Kevin was like being a little brat, but his siblings were being brats as well. And by the end of it, they appreciate each other because of the time that they didn't get to have, the time that they missed, and when Kevin was left home alone. But in this one, these characters just seem like bland, paper thin, like they're there just to be there.
In the first movie, especially, I feel like the writing in that was really strong for just so many different reasons. I feel like when, and I'm still I feel like this is still a bit of a theory for me, but just, in the first movie, when Kevin is talking to himself aloud, he's just like about like what he's going to go get detergent or how his day's gone or the furnace, stuff like that. He's kind of just doing stuff around the house and just saying things loud. And I was always like, why is he doing that? And the more I watch the movie, I think that what's happening is he thinks that the family is actually just watching him. They're hiding on him. And they think he's around, right? Because when he's going through Buzz's stuff at the beginning there, he's going through looking at pictures of his girlfriend going, "Buzz, your girlfriend, woof." And he's like, so he sees firecrackers and the little action figures that he shoots later and stuff. And he's like, "Buzz, I'm going through your stuff. You better come out and pound me." He's yelling all this stuff, but he's also explaining things in his relationship to certain people. And he's saying them loud. It's like these inner monologues he's having to himself and stuff. And at the very beginning of the movie too, just the small interactions that happen in the background and what's going on, these already plant the seeds of things that are going to happen at the start of the movie. And in Home Alone 3, what happens is he doesn't set those things up at the same. It's just, they didn't borrow that part of the idea. They just took we're just going to have adults versus a little kid who's alone in a house. That is the only thing that they have taken from the Home Alone franchise and made him a little kid. And that's, to me, one of the reasons you're going to see that it just doesn't work, because they just kind of throw some stuff at you like, here you go. Because they don't even really explain the characters' names or who they are as well either in this.
So coming off the heels of Marv and Harry, Joe Pesci, whenever either one of them are on screen, they like own it, right? Like, they are awesome characters. So I'm surprised that they left that out, like moving forward. Like, why did they have 4 villains? Like, why would you need 4 terrorists for this? Especially considering the majority of the traps were the same. Like, you had 2 people getting electrocuted at the same time. You had 2 people falling down a hole at the same time. It's like, if you're just going to do the same traps to all of them, like, what's the point? Why do you need to have 4 of them? And like you said, the fact that there was 4 of them gave absolutely zero time for them to build any kind of character or make me laugh in the same way that Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern did.
Yeah, because Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci also have different quirks to them too. They're also playing like kind of like the straight man, silly guy kind of thing. And also, Joe Pesci just has a Richard kind of thing.
And Joe Pesci is scary. Like, in the first Home Alone movie, Joe Pesci is legitimately scary.
He's a very intimidating little guy in that movie, for sure, absolutely. He's very tough.
Yeah, when he's grinning with his teeth and it's like shining, like he's a creepy guy.
You're like, these are the eyes of a murderer right now. Absolutely.
I would believe that he might kidnap me.
Yeah, this other guy's like Kramer with the hair just down. That's what he looked like. It is like, I don't believe that you're a threat to me, really, at this point in this movie. You kind of look like a ski instructor in this movie. I'm like, I don't know, man. You're not that tough.
Yeah, and I don't care about this missile, this chip. Like I understand that that's like the crux of the story in that like, if the terrorists win, they're going to destroy Hong Kong or something. I don't know, destroy the world. But like I don't care.
You're absolutely right. I was thinking about that too. This was kind of my thought I had about this. I was thinking about this the other day. That what did I really like about the first Home Alone movie? That's so great, and why is this completely the opposite? Even though this does try to be replica, and this is again why there's 4 villains versus 2. I feel like because they're doing the opposite of what they did in the first 2 movies. They did a big family in the first 2 movies where it's like 15 people that are all together in this giant house, and all these crazy interactions are happening, and they give you that crazy chaotic thing. And in this movie, it's is it Christmas time? They don't even tell you it's Christmas time. They don't. It's just there's just no going on, and it's a very small family, but they still have kind of a brother that's kind of like Buzz, but he's not Buzz, and then Scarlett Johansson, that's kind of an amalgamation of a couple different of the girls and brothers that give, and cousins, and like that give Kevin a hard time in the first movie. That's kind of her character. They've kind of condensed all of that into these couple little bits, and then again they don't really establish too much at the start or anything like that. They just kind of put you in the story.
Yeah, and I find that like going back to what you said, like it doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. This whole movie takes place in daytime. Like in daylight. Okay, so like what's an easy way to identify Christmas like visually in any kind of movie? You show the neighborhood at night. You get to see all of the decorations and you see all of the Christmas lights. There was none of that in this movie. There was hardly any Christmas songs. I can't tell where this was in relation to Christmas. The kids were still in school, so it wasn't even Christmas vacation yet. So this is like, I don't know, the first week of December or something.
Yeah, this could be January. Who knows? This could be right after. We have no idea.
No, and no one in the family's even acknowledging Christmas. Like they're not talking about doing any plans or anything like that. As far as we know, the parents may not even be home for Christmas. They might just leave him alone again if still has a chicken pox. I don't know. But and the device that they used for him being home alone in this movie was kind of a bummer and pretty uncreative, in my opinion. Like he had chicken pox, you know. In the other movies, like you said, it had the giant family, and that was basically the excuse that they used for being able to not keep track of Kevin and losing him with all the chaos and stuff, right? This one, there's nothing. There's nothing about Christmas. There's no Christmas chaos.
Some burglars are in his neighborhood, and he's just kind of getting in the way. Yeah, that's it. Well, that's what I mean. So in this movie, I mean, this is what I was thinking about, was that the original Home Alone really does borrow a lot of themes from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. In the movie It's a Wonderful Life, there's a guy who basically wishes he had never been born, and an angel comes down and shows him what his life would have been like if he had never been born. And at the end of the movie, the guy finds out that he actually does have a wonderful life, and he actually does wish he was born. So that's kind of the whole message of the movie, and you see that in Home Alone, where he has a family that annoys him. It grinds him on his gears, and he wishes he just didn't have his family. He says, I wish he was living alone. His family wasn't there. He wished he was going on vacation by himself because he'd have fun and he'd be on his own. And that happens. He wakes up the next morning. It's just there's no angel that shows up, and he gets that picture of what that life is like, except there's just a bunch of burglars that show up. So they kind of play off the same ideas and themes, except in Home Alone, there's a moral, right? There's kind of a lesson there. You see that, your family's important, and he kind of needs his family, and his family misses him too, right? Even though they didn't like each other, and they got on each other's nerves, and they were fighting at Christmas time, they still missed each other, and they still realized that, they're their family. That kind of there's sort of that lesson there. In this movie, there's nothing that goes on here. There's no lesson learned. It's just a kid gets a car and he just beats some people up.
Yeah, this not Macaulay Culkin. He just has no arc whatsoever. He's a kid who sees burglars. Everybody ignores him until they get closer and closer, and then at the very last minute, he manages to get the better of them. But yeah, there's no arc or story besides that.
Yeah, honestly, I really think at the end of this, what Beaupre should have done is $10 million on the line. He should have cut everybody else out of this. Just like I said, hoop that chip, walked over to wherever he had to deliver it to, and get it to them. That's it. This movie could have been over. No fuss, no race car. You're out the door.
Yeah. So, yeah, at the end of it, for me, this movie did not put me in the Christmas spirit. It didn't do it for me. I'll probably just go back and watch Home Alone 1 and 2 again.
I think that's probably a great place to leave it, Tim. So before we go, maybe we'll just say Merry Christmas, guys. Hope you guys have a fantastic holidays, whatever you're doing. Stay safe. We'll be back in the new year, and we'll be jingling your bells very soon.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, everyone.
You smacked my Winky.